Hi, Paula. So let's get started on your reading. Okay. So I'm trying a different approach this time. Pre-shuffle the cards, and then I just examine what it is precisely that you need to know, and then I just move forward. Okay. So, pile one, your overall message is protecting your heart with your apex predator influence and you needing the darkness to see the sun. Okay? So, what you're thankful for are your deeds, your riches, everything pretty much that what it took to have the life that you do now, and the ins and outs of a job or a franchise or a company. So, you could be a decision maker or you could be somebody that's like highly influential. And the reference that I'm supposed to give you is through an experience. And I remember there was a time when I was working at Edible Arrangements, and I loved it. It was like one of my favorite jobs, right? Arranging fruits. But there's a whole big story behind that, but I'm going to keep it short. So, anywho, I finally got to the point where I could work in the company to see what the franchise is like behind the scenes of making the arrangement, as opposed to just being the consumer and enjoying the arrangement. So I learned a lot of fascinating things, especially about cutting fruits, right? And precision and attention to detail. And there was a point in time where, Edible Arrangements has many franchise, like it's a franchise, so it has many locations, right? And if you have the money and you have what's required, you can open up your very own. So, okay. So, where I did my training and where I worked was based out in Brooklyn, New York, because that was where at the time I was residing. All right, so I got to know the ins and outs of the company, and I understood that just because an arrangement was beautiful doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of work that went into it, right? So you're understanding that there's a lot of work that goes into making a company thrive or make something in order to make something work, right? And to continue to allow this company or this like franchise to thrive, you have to find people that are willing to put the work in. Now, there's something also in regards to the right team, because you can put a team together, but if they're not the right people for the job, if they're not passionate about it, it's not going to thrive, right? So, anywho, I remember I was in a location and I was working for a particular owners that owned most of the franchises for Edible Arrangements in Brooklyn. I didn't really like their work ethic, so so I didn't like the way they treated their employers. But I also understood that despite the fact that how they were treating me, there were things that I could learn. Okay. So, and it was a learning experience. So, anywho, I got to the point where I did not want to do Edible Arrangements in Brooklyn, New York. So I started working in Queens, right? And the way I left Brooklyn, New York, Edible Arrangements was in a way where I was tired of being mistreated by the managers. I was tired of being watched by employers and them counting all the things that I did wrong as opposed to what I did right, right? And I remember there was a moment where I was just like tired, right? My back was hurting, and then I expressed that my back was hurting, and they said, oh, well, don't forget, you still have to mop, and you still have to do the dishes, and you still have to do X, Y, and Z. And then they put an arrangement in front of me that I had to create, which was like a bouquet. And that, like, it was a particular bouquet. I love doing bouquets, but that one in particular was like, it was going to be time consuming, right? And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just walk out of here. So, and I was in my 20s, guys. So, the maturity wasn't there yet. So I just walked out. I left. And I think I only let the person in the front know that I was leaving. I didn't let my manager know or anything. I left. And so it's Brooklyn, New York, you know, word gets around. So I worked in most locations. And so there was a manager from the location that was closest to me at the time, because at the time I lived in Flatbush. So she came up to me because we were in the same supermarket. And she was like, oh, she said, I heard the way you left just out of nowhere. She was like, that was funny. Nobody was expecting that. And I remember saying, oh, okay, right? But we really had nothing like to talk about, because as far as I'm concerned, like if I left, you know, and the reason I wasn't so like lenient, I guess, with the manager at the time was because she was also someone who was always looking for me to like mess up. So it was like she'd wait for me to mess up and then she'd fix it. And then it was like, okay, if I messed up again, she would tell me, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then I would do it correctly, right? So not to say that she was hard to work with, but I feel like the guidance wasn't really there. So anywho, by the time she came up to me and she was like smiling and laughing and trying to put everything behind us, I was just like, okay, whatever, right? Like I kind of had the whatever attitude, but it was a moment of, well, okay, I understand nobody was expecting that, but you know. And so, very short, right? Anywho, long story short, I get to an edible arrangements location in Queens. Now, I really love the company. That's why I kept like wanting to be a part of it, right? And then I started working at the Queens location, and it was nice. Like it was, the boss was better, the workers were better, even though the workers were like younger. So I spent a lot of the time delegating, right? But had it not been for the experience I had in the previous locations, I wouldn't know what to do, how to do it, how to move, right? How to assist or teach other people how to do something, okay? So you learning the ins and outs of what it is that you're a part of, it gives you a level of experience that nobody will be able to take away from you. Now, it got to the point where I told myself, I said, okay, because I saw the injustices, right, that were happening at the company again, but this time with a different employer. So I said, this is like a dead end, right? Like no matter like what location I worked for, it was one of those things where you could only go up but so far, okay? Unless you owned or you had a franchise, you could run it however you want. But if you do not own that franchise, right, or a piece of that, then pretty much anybody can tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it on their terms, because you're on their time. Okay, Power One? So, anyhow, so it got to the point, I remember I was leaving and I told my former boss that I needed a closer location to home and this wasn't going to work out for me. And she knew that I was one of her like really good workers, right? Even to the point she was like crying. Like she was leaving early, but she was crying. And she understood. She said, okay. And then she came up to me. She was like, oh, but you have some shirts and some hats that you have to give back. I said, I put everything in the bag along with the key, because I gave her a bag with all the stuff that I had, like the merchandise, and I gave her the key to the front door, right? And I advanced pretty quickly. So I gave her all of that back. And she was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, there was nothing for her to like hold on to, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say to you, Power One, is that maybe you're about to do something that leaves a company or a franchise or a group of people with nothing to hold on to, right? But the simple memory of you. And the decision that you're about to make, you're realizing is the best decision for yourself, okay? Because you're coming to a point of understanding your self-worth and realizing that you want to be around people who want you to advance, they want you to improve, they want you to be the best version of yourself. You cannot do that if somebody knows that they are causing a physical strain to you, all while wanting you to be the best of the best, right? And so, surprisingly for you, I don't think you're so much worried about jobs. I don't think you're worried about employment as you are worried about connections. So, for you, Pawan, there's a divine union that you're concerned about, and you want to know if you lost somebody for good, and God, infinite intelligence, source, however you resonate, is telling you no, you did not lose this person. But in order to come into union with this person, you have to know that you are valuable, right? So this is more of esteem than it is establishing yourself in regards to finances, because I feel like God could place you anywhere on this earth and you'll find a way to make money, or you'll find a way to support yourself or support your needs with the means of others and help companies to thrive. I think it's just in the process of that, you want to be in a place where it's like you'll thrive, people appreciate your work ethic, but you're doing it for all the right reasons, right? It's like you're learning to stop fighting for people, places, and things that will not fight for you, okay? And you're starting to fight for all the right reasons. That's what I want to say. It's like you stopped fighting for the wrong reasons and you started fighting for all the right reasons. And because of that, you are given like the things that you want. I wanted to say a second chance, but this doesn't feel like second chance to me. This feels like a clean slate, okay? And so I also wanted to say there's a particular song that came up in my mind. It's called The Fray, How to Save a Life, right? But that part in the song where it's practically the chorus is like, where did I go wrong? I lost a friend somewhere along in the bitterness. And had I stayed up with you all night, then I'd know how to save a life. So that could be significant to you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you feel like you lost someone to the bitterness of trying to learn the in and outs of yourself, or trying to understand your self-worth, or how valuable you are, or how appreciative you should be of yourself, right? And I think the best way to move forward, or the message for you today, Power One, is understanding or coming to the realization of just how loved and adored that you are, right? And how many people truly support you. Like how many of the right people truly support you, and not the ones who support you because they want to get something out of you, or take advantage of your experience, for lack of a better term. And what you're searching for is love, intimacy, right? Just incentive for union, incentive to being with the right people, the right person, the right places at the right time. And I think you're going to get it, honestly. So the things in your heart that you need to express right now is maybe coming to terms with wanting, I don't want to say needing, right? But wanting the support from a person you may have overlooked in the past, or a person you knew was important, but maybe you didn't realize it until you had an epiphany that, well, if you could choose anyone in this world to be in your life, it would be that person, right? And so I really feel like if you listen to the song, you're going to get your epiphany, but also just understanding that, people will not always see you the way that you see yourself, because sometimes people see a better version of you They see the version of you that you want to become before you see that person. Okay, pile 1, that's your reading. Okay, pile 2. So today, your reading is based on you wanting to reunite with someone. I get that this person is a ex-lover. I don't get ex-friend. All right. So this person that you want to reconnect with is somebody that you romanticized in your mind, but deep down you have your doubts. Okay. And so I asked what you were thankful for, and there's a part of you, pile 2, that's thankful for having or leading a double life. Somebody who appears like they're one way to the world, but really behind closed doors, they're a completely different person. And what you're worried about is not being able to thank the person that has healed your heart. Okay? And this person that has healed your heart, pile 2, I believe you caused a great deal of stress to this person. And there's a moment where Samantha from Sex and the City, she's doing an interview as the reason why she wouldn't continue or do a Sex and the City 3 or, be with or work with the cast that she worked with originally. And she said, they could have been a lot nicer. So there is this person that you're worried about not being able to thank this person that healed your heart. Maybe you're coming to the realization that you could have been a lot nicer, or they are coming to the realization that you could have been nicer. Okay? And so you are, or I'm going to say whenever this reaches you, you wanted to pray for a sister figure, right? Or I took it as two ways. I took it as a sister, like your biological sister, and I took it as a sister with an A, okay? And so there are a few people that you should pray for. You should pray that they find happiness and bliss forever. But is that what you're praying in regards to this person? Because I don't believe you are. And maybe in the past you were not so kind in your prayers towards them. You could be somebody who knows that what you say, like the power of your words, what you say to or about a person will stick. And you knew you were saying something to and about someone, could be a sister, or could be somebody, feminine energy that you knew had the possibility of sticking, but you wanted it to stick for the wrong reasons of that person and the right reasons for your benefit. I also saw that somebody being willing to sacrifice like the relationship that they have or had with a person that has healed them, could be a sister or could be just a friend, for an ex-lover. And this is exactly the reason why, pile 2, you are not moving forward, because if you get this reconnection with this desired person that you want to be with, that means you will be willing to throw this person that has healed your heart and healed you from whatever relationship this is. You would throw them under the bus and you would scapegoat them if it meant you got to be with this person again. Now, anybody that puts you in a position in order for you to win their affections, you would have to sacrifice a relative or a family member. And that relative or that family member is not toxic. They're not abusive to you in any way. That's definitely a warning sign from the universe. Okay? So I feel like this is coming as a warning. Be careful who you're willing to sacrifice for connections you were forced to let go of. Now, you may have some bitterness, you may have some resentment, you may even have hate for the person that you are willing to let go of. The right relationship you're willing to let go of in order to have back into your life or into your world all the wrong relationships. And so the universe is telling you to transmute your hate and resentment into forgiveness. So maybe there was something that this sister, biological or friend, did that you weren't too fond of. Maybe they did not support you with a certain decision, and it was because they were looking out for your highest good. Okay? Now, we don't see certain things as somebody looking out for our best interest if we feel at that moment it has no value to us. It's at a disadvantage to us. Okay? But whatever this is, I feel like whatever this person that has healed your heart did or said to you, right? It is not worse than what this ex-partner or what this person in your life that wants to separate you from family and friends has done to you. They told you no. Maybe somebody told you no for the first time in a while, or the first time in like ever. And that was their test from the universe of them putting their foot down and realizing that you were not going to scapegoat them. You were not going to walk all over them. You were not going to get what you wanted simply because you felt it was best for you and your best interest. And the universe also tested you in that moment because the universe wanted to see what you were going to do the minute somebody stood up for themselves against you. Okay? And so it wasn't a very happy ending because you were willing to throw whoever this person is. I feel like it's either a relative or a very close friend or both. But you were willing to throw this person under the bus for your personal gain. And yes, there are a lot of universal laws, karmic laws at play. And now, because of that one action or the several actions that you have taken, you have to now see the effect to your many causes. And you cannot blame this person. I think what's happening, Pile 2, is you're looking for a reason to blame all the people who were right, and you're willing to see how all the people who were wrong were actually making the best decisions for you. So something is completely backwards, right? And I don't know if this is because you are personally relying on the people that you want to reconnect with, or you would rather be in a relationship with. But I'd say pay attention to who the universe removes from you and from your life, and why and when, right? So what you need right now is faith. And that's a lot easier said than done. Because if a person is requiring faith, that means there is a high chance that they don't believe in God. Okay? So you have to have faith over science, over spirituality. This is not just a matter of alchemizing and having like a superpower to use it for all the wrong reasons, okay? I feel like God has given you many superpowers, and each power that you have come across, alchemizing being one of them, your words being another thing, like you have used on the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. So I feel like whatever that is now is taken away from you. Whatever power you thought you had over somebody, or whatever you spoke over someone, or whatever you allowed an ex-lover or ex-connection to speak over this person's life in order for you to gain their good graces, that's not happening anymore. So something has completely backfired, okay? I'm not talking, and if somebody is inquiring and they pick Pile 2 and they know they are not doing any of the sorts, this is something that they are not doing that, but was done to them that they are unaware of, okay? And so now the same person that healed your heart from previous relationships, from relationships that were going wrong, the same person you turned to and that you had a ear to listen and a loving shoulder to lean on. The same person now determines your fate. And you have to think, right? Whenever you're placed in positions like that, why would God do that? Because it's also a test for you and it's a test for this person. Why would God put you in a position to where the person that you decided to scapegoat in order to keep the relationship you know you were supposed to let go now determines your fate? Why? Right? And there's something about the shift in roles where you thought you had the power to determine this person, how long they were going to stay, how rich they were going to be, how happy they were going to be, their relationships. And maybe you just kept, like, wherever a person would speak life, or whenever a person wanted to speak life over this person, maybe you weren't speaking life over this person. Or maybe this ex-partner was not speaking life over this sister figure or this friend or this sibling. Maybe they were speaking really harsh realities and you allowed them to do this because in the back of your mind you thought, if I let them do this, that means you would get to be with them again. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You see how God works? And now you're required to have faith over somebody who you pretty much wanted to be sacrificed to God knows what, God knows who. Okay? You have to have faith and you have to alchemize all the word magic you have done of hate into forgiveness. And still, this person decides your utter fate. Okay, so part 2. There's also something I need to tell you in regards to a particular song I picked up for you. It was Everessence. I forgot the name of the song, but it's a moment where she goes, so tired of being here, suppressed by all these childish fears. And if you have to leave, I wish that you would just go, because your presence still lingers here. So you could be, because whoever I'm talking to, like they definitely dabble in, or have dabbled in realms, right? In regards to spirituality. You could have been monitoring this person. You could have been watching them from a distance. You could have been spying on them to see what they were doing, what their next move was going to be, who they were going to be with, who they were actually with, and trying to, it's like, and you've got whoever this person is to the point it's just like, if you have to go, I wish you'd just leave, right? Like, this person just wants you to leave them alone. It says a lot about you when you have a sibling that took the time to look out for you and to heal you and to make sure you, if they want nothing to do with you, it says a lot about how you treated them. I believe you know this, pal, too, right? But this picture, there's something about a picture you painted to other people to make it seem like this person wasn't on the up and up, or they didn't do something, or you should have what they have. And I got a lot of that energy too while I was like channeling and meditating on the cards. It's like, you should have the luxury, you should have the money, you should have the wealth, you should have the financial stability, you should have the loving partner. Okay, then let go of the ex that doesn't love you. Hard pill to swallow, right? Let go of the person who was willing to sacrifice your whole family in order to gain your personal riches, which you probably didn't get on your own, right? So, and I'm not saying this to be harsh, as I am saying it to open your eyes to the reality that you wanted and you were willing to create for someone else in order to be the first at something, the best at something. Power, to have that power over someone. Because now that power's gone, whoever this person is has reclaimed their energy. All right, you've painted a picture to family, you've painted a picture to friends. Now, the family members you've painted this picture to wants nothing to do with them. Now, the friends are kind of looking at this person sideways. And now, this person you know behind the scenes, you know has healed you, you know has tried to do their best to protect you and to guide you. They want nothing to do with you. You know that's because of you. Okay? So, pile 2. This is also a test. Are you going to continue to allow your ego and your pride to get the best of you, to look at your younger siblings or look at whoever this is and say, you shouldn't have that, I should have that first? And I'll put anybody in the line of fire. I'll work with anyone to make sure you don't succeed. You still gonna have that attitude? Because it looks like everything is about to be taken away from you if you do. That's your reading, pile 2. Okay, pile 3. Last but not least. So, overall, your message is about divine counterparts, right? And the divine counterpart you are seeking is also seeking you. So, the main thing you have to realize is the divine counterpart is coming, this divine counterpart, if they're not in your life already, they're coming into your life, and what you're seeking from them, they are also seeking from you, okay? So this is about manifestation and attracting each other. Now, you're thankful for learning how to protect yourself, stick up for yourself. You're thankful for your intuition. You're thankful for your backbone, right? And you're thankful for being able to be wise enough to know that if somebody is behind the scenes trying to cause difficulty, the first thing you do and the only thing you have to do is reclaim your power back from this person, okay? Doesn't matter who it is. Now, you're worried about losing what God has gifted you, whether this be your gift and abilities, whether it be your finances, your home, your divine union, or the divine union that's coming into your life. You're worried about God taking it away from you. And the thing is, pile 3, God is not going to ever take away from you what God gave you, God, universe, source, right? Because it is your reward for learning to shine the light within in the midst of darkness, in the unknown. You didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to happen, right? You just trusted. You trusted in the process. You trusted in God. You trusted in the universe. You trusted in the God within, light source within. And you got this far, and you're going to go even further. Do not be worried about what the universe has gifted you. The universe is not going to take it away. You are using your gifts, your talents, your abilities, your intuition, even your backbone for all the right reasons. Expect increase, pile 3. Okay? Now, going further into your reading. I was supposed to talk about a children's book. Okay? A children's book that I created. Never published it. But there was a time when I was living in Brooklyn, New York. My brother came up to me. My youngest of my 3 brothers came up to me and he said, you should do children's books, right? And I said, I don't know, right? He said, you would make a lot of money if you did children's books and you did your own voiceover for like the book, and you posted it on YouTube, right? So I kind of laughed, and I'm laughing at it now because I remember when we had that conversation like over a year ago, and he told me, he said, all right, well, don't wait till October. Don't wait until October to start, doing these children's books. So I'm laughing because it's October now, right? But anywho, pile three. But a year ago, I created all these, like, not a lot, but 3 children's books, right? And one of the books was pertaining to uh, a girl having special wings, right? And she had these special wings that lit up at night. And she would come to her mother because, she was either being made fun of for her special wings. She was like people or other kids were afraid of her, or people like kind of stayed away from her because she had special wings, and she didn't understand why her wings only lit up in the dark. Okay, and so I created this book to where something happens in the story where the kids, they're in a really dark room and they can't see their way out, right? And so the little girl with the big wings is being guided to go into the place of darkness and to find all the little kids and to bring them out into the light. Now, it was a much deeper meaning because where the little girl with the big wings, she was being guided by her mom. She was being guided by her mom in the spirit, right? Because she wasn't with her in the physical. So pretty much she'd come to the realization that the reason she was gifted these wings and they only lit up at night and then they were so huge is because she was supposed to use her wings as a guidance to get all the other kids out of the darkness. And so once the kids got out of the darkness, she started to see the true beauty of her wings as well as the kids around her. They started to appreciate the beauty of her wings, right? Like without her wings and without her wings being so bright, she couldn't lead her and the rest of the kids that were in this really dark like place out. And so anywho, so I moved from New York and I came to the state that I'm in now, and I worked at a daycare center, right? And so there were different like kids, right? Some of them were coming from what we would consider quote unquote decent homes where the mom and the father is present. And some of them were coming from trauma homes, right? Some of them were considered what we called trauma babies, which means the original mother and the father, they were abusive to this child. And so they were coming in with a lot of trauma. Okay, so we had to treat all of them within a guideline, right? But we were always given a heads up to the ones who, were coming from difficulty, so we expected them to have rather difficult behaviors. So with this one particular kid, he was a trauma baby, right? And so he was 2, and he was very like whenever he didn't get his way, right? He was just throwing tantrums, hitting stuff, throwing stuff, just getting very angry, right? And I remember the very first day the kid came into my classroom, I was just like, oh man. I was like, what? Why God, right? Just when I calmed the class down and I got in a certain order, this kid comes in. It's just like, why? So, but anywho, he threw his tantrums. He did what he did. He got upset. He got mad. And then, there was one day where I was just like, I just needed help because as adults, we think, oh, it's easy, just discipline the child and X, Y, and Z. And when you're a teacher, you can discipline a child to a particular extent, okay? But then you got to remember, you're not their actual parent, so you can't take matters into your own hands, and they're coming from a space of trauma. So I remember I tried a different approach. Wasn't gonna scream, wasn't gonna yell, wasn't gonna like put this kid on timeout. I said, you know what? I'm going to spend my time showing this kid affection calmly, the gentle way, the right way. Look, you cannot do this because when you do this, this will happen. You have to be careful. And I showed him through examples. And then there came a point in time where this child would watch me and he would watch the way I treated other kids. Kids are always watching, by the way. Like, even if they're in their own world or they're in their own realm of whatever, they're always watching you where it matters the most or when you think they're not looking. So, did what I did, right? And so there came a time where I was looking around the classroom and this kid went from getting upset, mad, crying, throwing tantrums, throwing things all over the place, to smiling, wanting to hug the teachers and I, wanting to say, oh, if something happened, are you okay? Okay, no thank you. Please, yes, thank you, right? A much kinder energy came from this child. And it wasn't because this child was being screamed at or told no or being put on timeout for every single thing he did, right? It's because he was being shown affection as opposed to what he was expecting. He was expecting abuse, okay? Because he's coming from a space where his mom abused him, his father abused him. He was expecting that level if he did something wrong. But when the roles were reversed, it was a huge change in a 2-year-old in a matter of months, right? So I think about it like this kid came in from yelling and screaming and not ever smiling, crying more than he was smiling, to laughing and smiling and saying, thank you, are you okay? Hi, how are you, right? At 2. So it's those moments, Pile 3, I'm telling you to let you know. It's at that moment where everything came into full circle, right? And I thought about the book that I created. And I said to myself, oh my goodness, this book played out exactly how I wrote it. So, Pile 3, something is playing out in your world in a way where maybe you envisioned it, maybe you created it, maybe you wrote it down, but you co-created this particular point of your reality. And I think it is to remind you that there's so much power in the light that you possess, even as an individual, right? I want to say super being, but as an individual, there's so much power that you possess that sometimes it's the simple things that'll give away the answer, right? It's the little discoveries of what you thought, okay, well, I'll do this, but it's just a book. I'll do this, but it's just a reading. I'll do this, but it's just for entertainment purposes. But it makes a huge difference in somebody else's life. So I wanted to say that. And I wanted to say that there is so much power in your transformation and the things that you have done that there's no way that the universe, God, source, is going to take away from you everything you've utilized in order to create a better world for somebody else, okay? Now you may get upgraded, and with these upgrades, it may cause a relocation, it may cause a better way, but it's not, if something has to be removed, it is not because you no longer deserve it. It's because there are people, places, and things in much better areas or in circumstances where they need you, okay? You are, just remember, whatever happens next, it is an upgrade and it is not a demotion, spiritually, physically, and energetically, okay? Now, candy shop is significant. And there's something about being at the right place at the right time. And now your way to move forward is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for what you did and forgive yourself for what was done to you. Okay? And when you do this, it's like literally all doors, any door you want opened up to you is going to open up just for you. So I think about it from this sense, right? There were moments when I was in the classroom and I had to ask myself, like, for that particular like boy, was I too gentle? Was I too harsh? Was I too stern? Was I too firm? Right? And I kept asking myself this because I did not want to make the wrong move. I was so concerned about making the wrong move because I know he's coming from a space of trauma that I did not want to traumatize this boy even more. So even the things that I thought like, did I have to be that stern? Was it okay? Right? And each time I had just learned to just trust myself more and more and more and more. And again, it was because of those decisions, even if they were questioned, even if I questioned them myself, it was because of those decisions why this boy went from crying and screaming, throwing a fit, throwing stuff, to saying no, thank you, please, hello, how are you, and smiling. I've never seen this boy smile as much as he did when I first started in that classroom. Sometimes it only takes moments, pile 3, to realize how much of a difference you make. And it's okay to appreciate your gifts and abilities and what was given to you because you are meant to showcase them to the world. This is why you shine so bright. Pile 3, that's your reading. Okay, guys, so this is the bonus read. I did the 3 piles. But the bonus read is just collectively speaking, just for anybody who wants to go beyond the pile that they chose. And so you have to know, right, that you have a person or you have people that want you to quit. They want you to stop doing something. Now, it could be a sense of employment where you work. It could be what you do for a living or what you're passionate about. It could be anything, right? But somebody wants you to quit, and I'm going to tell you, don't. Now, the message here for you is you have to know your ability to move forward, your great ability to move forward. And the example I was supposed to give was Jesus in the boat with his disciples, and there was a storm, okay? And this was when Jesus was about to cross over to the other side. So in the midst of getting on the boat and crossing over to the other side, there was a great storm, right? And the disciples were fearful in the midst of this storm, right? To the point that they came to Jesus. They said, Jesus, there's a storm, outside, and they were pretty much fearful for their lives. And Jesus stilled the waves, and suddenly the storm was gone, right? Now, we can take that from a technical sense, but we all know the Bible is spiritual. So I'm going to look at it from a spiritual standpoint. Jesus decides that he's going to cross over to the other side, okay? Where people are waiting for him, people are waiting to appreciate his gifts, his abilities, the fact that he is the healer, he is, the Messiah. Now, you are deciding that you are going to ascend, okay? Because I have broken down the sense of what it is to be a disciple and what it is to be Jesus. We take it from a technical standpoint of there is 12 people, right? And then it's like the 12 disciples, and then there's Jesus. All right, we can take it from that sense, sure. Spiritually, this is how I interpret it, and it's just my interpretation. You don't have to take it, but spiritually, right? Now, when we look at science, what's a part of our brain? We have 4 sections, supposedly, to the brain. We have the unconscious, we have the conscious, we have the subconscious, and we have the super subconscious. Within all of these parts of the brain, we have the id, the ego, and we have the superego. That's 3 parts to 1 part of the brain, right? So if we have 4 parts to the brain, I'm going to get a little mathematical here. If we have 4 parts to the brain, and then in the 4 parts we have 3 sections that consist of these 4 parts to the brain, how many sections are there? 4 parts to the brain, 3 sections in each. 4 times 3, 12. How many disciples does Jesus have? All right, so moving forward, right? So now Jesus decides he wants to cross over, he wants to get to the other side. There's a huge storm. Fearful. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? This storm can topple over the boat. Anything could happen. We're in great danger. Who brought the storm? If there are not 12 disciples, I'm going to put this in a different form. If you are the only one on this boat and you decide to ascend to a much higher level, who is creating that storm for you? Is it anybody outside of you, or is it you? Okay? So, and the reason why particular things happen, certain storms happen, is because there is something that needs to be released. Now, you look all throughout the book of the time we talk about the Messiah, we talk about Jesus healing. Who was following him? The Pharisees. Who's following him? People in positions of high places, the kings and the sheriffs and whomever, right? Whoever thought that it was blasphemy, what he was doing, what he was teaching, right? And so they would follow him. They try to ridicule him. They try to catch him. They try to just, the worst kind of treatment you can think about that came to Jesus because he was who he was, right? Because he knew who he was to himself and he knew who he was to his Father. The kind of treatment the Pharisees gave him. Who do you think you are, right? So with a lot of that, of course, there's some form of trauma to the point Jesus can now get on a boat. You can now get on a boat. You can now go to the other side where you're appreciated, you're loved. And I'm not talking about the other side of you're not here in the physical realm. You can go to a place where you are appreciated, you are loved, you're cared for, you're supported. And there is a storm. The storm is coming from all the past trauma that you have suffered by the hands of people who just wanted you to quit. That person who went out of their way to try to make your life miserable, right? It's like wanting you to stay in a position, wanting you to be that version of yourself that you knew could not exist the minute you got on that boat and you decided to go on the other side, okay? So now, bonus read for whoever this is. You're clearing the storm. You're stilling the waves. You're stilling the water. You know who you are. You know the same storms you created, you can now subside. Who is this? And then the disciples, right? Which we all know who the disciples are now, right? The disciples goes, who is this man that he can still the storm? Who is this man that he can still waters and remove a storm? Understanding your power, okay? You understand there is power to your words. So you're going to use it even when somebody just wants you to revert. They want you to turn your boat back around. They want you to quit. They want you to lose focus. You have the power to still the elements of the world. So remove the storm. That's your reading.